Now, joining me now is former Speaker of the House, Bronwyn Bishop, and commentator Jason Morrison. Welcome to you both.
Sure.
Bronwyn, let's get straight into it. This inquiry announced by Anthony Albanese today, is it a genuine inquiry or a sham?
It's a joke. It's seriously a joke. Look, the things we need to have answers to, like why were those medical people given so much power in the States? Was the national cabinet productive or not? Because it heightened the division between the states and the Prime Minister raising the premiers to being his equal, when that's not the way the Federation works. Was closing the borders between states necessary or not? Were they politically motivated? All those questions will be totally ignored.
Yeah.
Totally ignored. And who have we got on there? Oh, yes, Lindsay Tanner's former Chief of Staff, who was very supportive of Chairman Dan and very unsupportive of New South Wales. Why waste the money? I mean, this is just a divisive an attempt at diverting the attention to something else from the voice.
It's a whitewash.
Look, I'm doing something.
It's a whitewash. It's something you do to make it look like you're doing something.
Yes.
In this country, we enjoy so many freedoms. Our deprivation of liberty that went on right through this process, helicopters hovering over the top of homes in Western Sydney, using thermal gear to see if they could count the number of people that might be inside a building. Police officers being asked to do things that are just so beyond the pale of what a policeman should be doing. Put aside the medical extraordinary decisions that were being made by people and the relentless, paternalism that was going on from the premiers. And that's the stuff that matters to people. Like little kids that didn't go to school for all this time. I've got a son who, with half of his class, they didn't really learn to read properly because they were off school. It's a generation of kids that are going to be screwed up. And his response is to give us a bogus inquiry that is a sham, and everyone can see it. And we can almost write it. But Bronwyn, you've been in the game for a while.
Absolutely.
You can almost write the findings today.
Well, Bronwyn, do you think the coalition should be participating in this inquiry, or should they say, look, if it's not going to include everyone, then they won't? Because Michael Sickler just indicated they have that decision to make.
I think it's perfectly legitimate to say this is not fair dinkum, we're not taking part. I mean, this is typical of Albo the Trot. He really is not up to the job. He's an old Trotskyite. He just likes power. He likes the old communist regimes. This is a fake trial, if you like. It's just becoming emblematic of the way he's running the country.
But Sharri, it's the premiers and their line of bureaucracy that should be on trial here. They're the people who impose the overreach. And while we're at it, the National Cabinet, we don't need the National Cabinet anymore. I mean, there's no constitution here. We're talking a lot about constitutions here. So there's absolutely no constitutional need for that. And yet it still goes on. We still have National Cabinet meetings and group decisions are being made on things that there's no role in this. This has been so much overreach by elected officials, and they're not all in Canberra. A lot of them are Gladys Berejiklian and Palaszczuk and Dan Andrews and the bloke in Western Australia.
But it's also the bureaucrats. It's the health advice that everyone relied on.
Which we never saw. Never.
Yep.
I mean, we were told that the health advice said we had to do such and such. Well, let's have a look at it. No, never saw it.
Now, let's talk about Julian Assange. An unlikely alliance of Australian politicians are in Washington. This includes Barnaby Joyce, Alex Antic, Monique Ryan, Green Senator David Shoebridge. They're all calling for Julian Assange to be released. Why should he be released, Bronwyn?
I think they're wasting their time, to be quite frank. I mean, the Americans, there's no way that they're going to give in to a group of Australians who come by for a chat. It's got no more standing than that. So I think it's a waste of time.
But should he be?
Well, I was of the opinion that the British could have taken a better line in their decisions. They didn't, and so it's taking its course. But what Julian Assange did was pretty bad. I guess the only thing that you can argue for some sort of mitigation is the fact that Chelsea Brown, I think is the name of the American who was jailed for the same incident, has been let out. So I don't know how you offset those, but I don't think they have much chance.
Jason, I've been told that Kevin Rudd sees it as part of his mission to try and get Assange released. So he could be putting extra pressure on the Biden administration here.
So Assange is screwed then. If Kevin's on the job, sorry mate, get used to. There are Australians being impounded by governments around the world that I think deserve far greater political attention, like those in China, those Australians, than this bloke. And his behaviour in the Ecuadorian embassy, it was cowardice-style behaviour. It's just extraordinary. Who's paying? I don't have any answers to this. I'm just asking, who's paying for all of these Australian politicians to be there?
Such a good question.
Are we paying for that?
Good question. We can look into it. But it also raises an interesting point. Where is the Australian delegation of cross-party politicians going to China to demand the release of Cheng Lei?
Yep.
Correct.
All right, Bronwyn Bishop, Jason Morrison, thank you both so much for joining me.
Great pleasure.